Alright guys, this is the North American Arms 22 Magnum single action mini revolver. Awesome little gun. I just picked mine up the other day. I absolutely love it. For those of you that are looking for a small pocket gun, something to carry with you while you're hiking, maybe a backup gun, great piece. Absolute great piece. I got mine for hiking, for jogging, something I could carry with me in my running shorts, something that's not going to be as bulky as my car PM9, for instance, that I typically carry, something that I can actually bring with me on a hike, on a jog. This one, because it is a 22 Magnum, not going to be my first choice for a concealed carry gun. So I know a lot of guys out there are going to see this video and say, well, 22 Magnum or a 22 long rifle is not going to be it's not going to be powerful enough to handle a defense situation. They are absolutely right. This is a gun that you have as a last resort. One of the things that Nothing Fancy says in all of his videos, it's better to have something than to have nothing. He says, try fighting with your fingernails and your fists. Good luck with that. That's one of the things he said in his videos. I strongly believe the same thing. You're better off having this than just your fist, if this is all you have. If you've got options, by far I would recommend getting a bigger gun, getting a 380, a 32, 9mm, 45 if that's your fancy, even going the revolver route if you want to get a 38 Special, 257 Magnum, all great guns. I personally use a 9mm, as I said earlier, a Car PM9 as my primary carry choice. Well, let's dive into this North American Arms gun. I know a lot of you guys are waiting to see how you load it, how it works, my opinion on it. So first of all, we've covered the philosophy of use, what this gun is used for. I'd really like to talk about really how well it performs within that philosophy of use. So this is a good hiking gun, something to take with you on a jog. It works great. It's not very heavy. I do not have the exact weight. I apologize to you guys for that. But it is not very heavy, but it is an all-metal frame, so it's completely and totally metal all the way around. So keep that in mind as you research purchasing this weapon. It's not there's no polymer on it. It is all metal, so it's going to have a little extra weight, more so than maybe you're expecting from a gun this size. It is tiny. It's one of the things that a lot of people like about it is it is really tiny to get it in focus. It is really tiny. It fits in the palm of your hand. Just an absolute awesome size for a gun. It is single action only, meaning if you don't know, it means you have to pull the hammer back to fire a round. And after you fire the round, you have to pull the hammer back again to fire the round again. So every time you have to pull the hammer back. Two big flaws with that. If you're going to carry this gun with you, something you may need to know. The hammer, you see how it sticks out. It can get snagged. If you try to remove this from your pocket and you pull up on it real fast, it can get snagged in your pocket. It can get snagged on your shirt. It may make it a little difficult to draw your weapon out of a concealed area. Keep that in mind and look for a really good holster that may assist you in drawing it out, where this is not so much of an issue. There are a few, not very many, but a few really good pocket holsters and in the waistband holsters for this. The other downside is 22, and this is a safety checked gun, by the way, 22 are rimfire cartridges. And a rimfire cartridge, if I have this loaded and the hammer is pulled back, of course, you know when I pull the trigger, the hammer slams on the cartridge and the weapon fires. If I have a round in the chamber and I have the hammer up, in other words, if I pull the trigger, nothing's going to happen, right? If I drop this weapon and it hits a hard surface and it hits down on the hammer, it could potentially go off, causing injury or death. Not safe. But North American Arms does have this little safety built into the chambering And I'll show you this particular model that I have has a um, extra barrel or extra chamber. I'm sorry, for 22 long rifle and 22 Magnum. So here's my extra that came with the gun. If you buy a 22 Magnum and this doesn't come with it, you can get them from North American Arms for a price. Some of them have these, some of them do not, so just keep that in mind. Mine did. The gun store that I bought mine from only orders the conversionable kind, so pretty awesome. But what I wanted to show you on here is, if you can see, in between every chamber on the cylinder is a notch in between each one. That's a safety notch, so you can put your hammer in between there. So I'm going to try and get this in camera. You can see kind of how the gun looks right now. If I were to put the hammer in between two cylinders, you would just kind of turn it with your hand, gently lean back on the hammer and pull the trigger, and allow it to rest in between two cylinders. Alright, now sometimes you don't get it. Like that time I didn't quite get it in there. Okay, now I've got it resting between two cylinders. I can see if you can see the difference in there. You may not be able to, but you can kind of see how it's resting between two cylinders. Now if I drop this gun, nothing's going to happen. So it's safe. If I needed to pull it out and use it, I pull it from my pocket, cock the hammer back, and it's ready to go. It's now in a firing position. The next thing I wanted to talk about briefly with you guys was the trigger pull on it. It is a single action revolver, so the trigger pull is excellent. I'm going to dry fire it one time for you, and again, this is a safety check gun. I pull the trigger. Let me try and get this better into focus for you. I pull the trigger, and it works flawlessly. Just maybe about 2 pounds of trigger pull, very light. So once you've got the hammer cocked, you better be ready to fire. There is no trigger guard, so as you hold this gun, it does kind of require you to be aware of what you're doing, because just the slightest bump and it goes off. See, I didn't even mean to make it go off that time. So it doesn't take much. It is a single action only revolver, so it doesn't take a whole lot. But a great trigger pull, very smooth. Talk about the sights for a second. There are no rear sights. You're simply looking down your iron little notch here on the end of your barrel. But in a gun this size, do you really need sights? Not really. Mostly for this gun, I'm using 22 Magnum Hornady Critical Defense hollow points. Relatively cheap 22 Magnums. Just use these, you know, if I'm walking around and I want to carry this as a defense gun. If I don't have my 9mm on me, these are my 22 Magnum defensive rounds. Yes, I know it's not a man stopper, but it will hopefully injure the assailant enough to where I can get away from the situation, call the police, do what I need to do. I carry these very cheap CCI 22 long rifles when I'm out on the range, and that's when I change out to my extra barrel. But they do make, and I don't have any to show you, but you can probably research videos on YouTube. They do make a CCI shot shell cartridge that fits in here, and it works just fine. It fits into the cylinder and fires out of this. You can get it in 22 Magnum or 22 long rifle. My suggestion is to get it in 22 Magnum. It has a little more power behind it. But they shoot out of the end of the barrel just like a shotgun. It's got a spread to it because it is a short barrel. It's a very wide spread. But if you encounter snakes on a hike or a jog, take them out. You know, if it's a situation you can't get away from the snake, and you've got to defend your life against that snake, you've got a way to do it. Also, getting shot in the face by those 22 Magnum shot shells, I'm sure would make anyone second guess trying to rob you. Just a thought. Disassembly of this gun, cleaning of this gun, and loading of this gun. So let's talk about that. In order to load this, you have to disassemble it. So the way you disassemble this weapon is kind of a nuisance, but it is a small gun, so you know, you take some of these things in strides. There's a button at the front, right here, and you push in on that button and pull this rod, if I can get it out for you. You pull that rod all the way out. Sometimes it's a little tricky. Rod's out. It's removed. I'll set that down. Your cylinder comes out. You may have to pull back on the hammer slightly to release it. So now your cylinder is removed. You've got your gun fully disassembled. To load, you simply load your rounds into the cylinder and you're ready to go. Let's talk about cleaning. This is a good gun for a beginner to learn how to use a weapon, maybe to learn how to fire, because it's going to be a lightweight round, it's going to be a small gun, something they may actually want to carry with them. A good gun for a female shooter as well, because it is small. Women wear a lot of form-fitting clothes. This is something that will fit in their purse, it'll fit maybe in their small jeans that they wear, in their waistband, whatnot. And maintenance on this is very simple. All you really have to do to clean this gun, the first step, of course, always make sure there's nothing in this channel in here. Make sure that when you pull the trigger, the hammer does hit the round with nothing in the way. There's no dust or lint in there from carrying it in your pocket or your purse. Then you want to definitely clean out the inside of your bore here. That's where the bullet goes through, so you got to clean it out. It will get heavily leaded, very dirty. You got to clean that out. Inside this channel here, to make sure that your cylinder turns freely. It doesn't take much cleaning at all, just a little scrubbing. And then the other step, of course, with any revolver, you want to make sure the inside of your cylinder is clean, because this is where your rounds are going to go. So you want to clean the inside of this out, make it look real nice and clean. Doesn't take much, a couple of passes with a brush and you're good. A lubricant for this, I haven't looked to see what North American Arms recommends, but on most of my weapons for a temporary use and a temporary lubricant, what I use is just 3-in-1 oil. A lot of people use that for their tools, to clean those up. It's a good lubricant, a rust protectant. It is a temporary use thing, so it's not long term. So check out the website, North American Arms. I think it's naaminis.com. To get information on exactly how to clean these and what to use lubrication-wise, whether it be oil or grease, what North American Arms recommends. I always say use what the manufacturer recommends. So to put this back together, whether you're putting it together for storage or if you have rounds in the chamber, you slide the cylinder back into the pistol the same way you took it out. You do have to pull the hammer back slightly. You kind of get it wedged in place. Then take that pin that we used earlier, and you're going to want to put it back into this hole in the front of the gun here. But a good rule of thumb, there is a ball bearing here. I can get that in the camera. That ball bearing has to face up towards the top of the bore there. So you put it in, push the end of the button so it clicks, check, make sure that everything functions, everything is working great, and the gun is back together. So, a good overview. This is the weapon that I would say you would use if you're going to go on a hike or a jog. You don't want to take a big bulky gun with you. A great gun. I do stand by it. Again, guys, this is my first gun review. I am Car Fan. Expect more from me. I will be doing some tactical gear reviews, some knife reviews, and I will be reviewing my Car PM9 coming up. So stay tuned and keep looking out for me. Thank you, guys.